Hi, welcome to Noble Cooley's guitar video, Learning the Basics. My name's Jim and I'll be your instructor. Now through this video I hope to give you some of the basic skills necessary to begin playing the guitar. This tape contains 6 individual lessons. Now each of these should be practiced for about a week or until you really feel comfortable playing what you've learned before moving on to the next lesson. Okay? So let's get acquainted with the guitar that you've just gotten. The guitar has 6 strings, and we'll call them strings 1 through 6, where string 1 is the skinniest string, and then string 2, next one down from there, etc., all the way down to string 6, which will be your thickest string. This large hollow part of the guitar is the body, and this is the sound hole right underneath the strings. This long, skinny part of the guitar is called the neck, and these metal bars on the neck are called frets. And these right here are tuning pegs. And what these do is raise or lower the pitch of the guitar. Raising the pitch or lowering the pitch. Let's move on. One thing that can't be stressed enough is the importance of tuning the guitar. And let me show you why. Right here I've got a brand new guitar right out of the box. Now as I sit down and play it, listen to what happens. Sounds like either I don't know how to play or something's wrong with this thing. Now chances are your guitar is going to probably sound the same way right out of the box. The guitar needs to be tuned or it's just going to sound terrible, plain and simple. So let me show you the difference between a guitar straight out of the box and a guitar that's been tuned. Now, sounds more like music to me. Okay. Now there are a few ways you can tune your guitar. One of the best ways is to tune to a piano or a keyboard. And if you refer to the instruction sheet that's included with your video, you'll see the diagram of where to find the notes on the piano and which strings to tune to those notes. Or you could use one of these. A pitch pipe, very inexpensive, has 6 holes, and each hole resonates at a particular frequency that will match each one of your strings. So as we blow into the hole labeled number 6, that should match the pitch of our 6th string. And it does. In the event that it didn't match, such as here, in this case we would have to tune the string until the pitches match. And so on for the rest of the string. Okay. Now for those of you at home who don't have a piano or a pitch pipe, I'm going to play some long notes and you can tune your guitar right to the notes on this video. So here's the pitch of the 6th string, E. Fifth string, A. Fourth string, D. Third string, G. Second string, B. And first string, E. Now, in case you missed some of those pitches, you may want to rewind this section and double check to make sure all your strings are matching these pitches. Now, in the event that you don't have a pitch pipe, piano, and you don't have access to your VCR, refer to the instruction sheet inside, and that will explain how to tune the guitar to itself. With your guitar all tuned up, let's move on to lesson 1. Throughout the lessons on this tape, I'm going to be joined by two of my students. Jeffrey is 7 years old, and he's only been playing guitar for 1 week. And Nicholas is 12 years old. He's been playing guitar for 1 year. Jeffrey will be joining us on Lesson 1. And let's move on. All right, time for Lesson 1. The first thing that I want to talk about is picking and how to hold the guitar. Okay? Now the guitar should be held with the sound hole facing away from you, not on the lap like this. You're going to have a very tough time getting your wrist around and getting your fingers on the frets. The pick is held in the right hand, and my friend Jeff here is going to show us how to hold the pick. Let's take a look. That looks good. Right between the thumb and the first finger, with the pointed part of the pick facing down at the strings. Okay? Now the first way that we're going to pick is by using all downstrokes. That's where we pick the string down toward the floor. Let's see that, Jeff. Yep, looks good. Okay. Now let's try some rhythm exercises on the first string. Okay. The first thing we're going to try is 4 measures of whole notes on the first string. And you guys and girls at home can play along with us. Guys all set? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay, let's try 4 measures again, this time playing all quarter notes. Again on the first string. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Very good. And last of all, let's try the same thing playing eighth notes. Remember, eighth notes are 2 notes to 1 beat. So we're going to be playing a little faster now. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Good. Now let's talk about the notes on the first 2 strings. Okay. Let's go to the first string. And as we pick this string open, which means not covering any frets, open, that note is E. And if you refer to your instruction booklet, you'll see that that is the top space on your treble clef. Okay? Now, if we push down the first fret with our first finger, that note is called F. And you'll see that sits on the top line of your treble clef. Now, when pushing down these notes, really give them a good squeeze, or what you're going to hear is no sound at all. Now, your thumb should be behind the neck, and fingers pointing right down at the strings. You get a nice clean note. Okay? Now, if we cover the 3rd fret, that note is called G. And you can see that that note sits right on the top of the treble clef. Okay, over to the 2nd string now. 2nd string open, that's called B, and that sits on the 3rd line of your treble clef. Covering the 1st fret gives us the note C, and that sits in the 3rd space on the treble clef. And covering the 3rd fret gives us the note D, which sits up on the 4th line of the treble clef. Now, let's use these notes to make some music. Now we're going to use all these notes to come up with a few simple melodies. The first one, example 1 in your booklet, is called Hot Cross Buns. And here's what this will sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay. Now example 2 is one I'm sure you're all familiar with, Jingle Bells. And it goes something like this. Now, as you can see, this one's a lot more complicated than the last one. It uses a lot more notes, and it's a lot more lengthy. My friend Jeff here is going to show us what it's like learning this one. Okay, let's try that, Jeff. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, Okay, good. Okay, well, you've probably noticed a few things as you've been trying these melodies and playing these notes. For one thing, guitar takes a lot of work. It's definitely kind of a difficult instrument to start out on. And you also may be noticing some lines and a little bit of pain in the tips of your fingers. How about you, Jeff? Getting? Oh, yeah. Yep, I see some nice lines in there. Now, that's perfectly normal. You know, the strings will do that to the tips of your fingers for a while. But as you continue to play and practice, you will develop calluses on the tips of your fingers. And the pain will go away, and the strings will become easier to push down. So have fun with this stuff, and we'll see you in a week. Hi, welcome back. All right, if you're feeling comfortable with everything we talked about in Lesson 1, let's move on to Lesson 2. And now we're going to talk about the notes on the third string, also called G. Now, when we pick the third string open, that note is called G, and you can see that on the second line of your treble clef. And when we fret the second fret of the third string, that note is called A, and you'll see that in the second space of your treble clef. Okay. Now we're going to work on a couple melodies that incorporate all the notes from last time, as well as the two new notes, G and A. The first melody, example 3, is called Ode to Joy, which is a very small portion of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and goes something like this. Now my friend Nick and I are going to play this together, nice and slowly, so those of you at home can follow along. Ready, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4. All right, next melody, example 4 in your booklet. Another one I'm sure you're familiar with is Yankee Doodle. Okay, and goes something like this. Okay, now let's try that again, nice and slow. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's it for lesson 2. Work hard at this stuff and have fun, and we'll see you next week. Hi, welcome to lesson 3. I want to talk a little bit today about chords. Now, a chord is a group of notes strummed together all at once. We're going to study some very, very simple chords today. First chord we're going to talk about is called G. And to make a G chord, we cover the 3rd fret of the 1st string, and then we pick the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings together. Just like that. Good. All right. The second chord is G7. Very easy, just like the last one, except we're going to cover the 1st fret of the 1st string, and we're going to pick the same 3 strings. Beautiful. Okay. And the last chord is C. Now to make C, we're going to cover the 1st fret of the 2nd string, and again we're going to strum those same 3 strings. Beautiful. All right. Now if you look in example 5, you're going to see what's called a chord progression. Now a chord progression is a group of chords in a series. As you can see, this series goes G, then G7, then C. And that's what we call the chord progression. Now if you look at the rhythm slashes, you'll see that there are 2 beats of the G chord, 2 beats of the G7 chord, and 4 beats of the C chord. Now when played in order, this chord progression will sound like this. Okay, let's try that one together, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. as you can see, these chords can be a lot of fun. They sound really good when you're playing together with a group of friends. And have fun with these. We'll see you again next week. Just want to remind you to take good care of your guitar, especially your strings. They can be wiped clean with a dry soft cloth after every practice session, and try to avoid playing with greasy or dirty fingers. That will decrease the life of your strings. Okay, time for lesson 4. Today we're going to talk about the notes on the 4th string. Okay. Now, when we pick the 4th string open, that note is called D, and you'll see that's the note just below your treble clef. The 2nd fret is the note E, which you'll see on the bottom line of your treble clef, and the 3rd fret is F, which you'll see in the 1st space of the treble clef. Okay. Now, our first melody using these new notes is called the Snake Charmer, example number 6 on your booklet. And it goes something like this. Okay, one more time. Nick and I are going to go through this one nice and slow. Ready, Nick?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Good. The next melody covers a little more ground than the last one, so I hope you remember all your notes from our previous lessons. This one's called Amazing Grace. It's number 7 on your booklet, and it goes something like this. Why don't we try this together, Nick? Okay. 1, 2. All right. Okay. Practice hard on this stuff, and we'll see you next time. At this point, we're going to be joined by one of my more advanced students. Chris is 14 years old, and he's been playing guitar for 3 years, so don't be discouraged if you don't pick this up as quickly as he does. Hi, welcome to Lesson 5. Today we're going to talk about alternate picking. Now, alternate picking is a good method for developing speed as you're picking the notes. And let me show you why. As I pick this string with all downstrokes, notice I can double the speed if I catch the string on the upstroke as well. And with very little effort, you can begin to pick very fast. Now there's a couple exercises you should practice to develop this control with your right hand. And my friend Chris here is going to demonstrate a couple of these for you. The first is the one I just did. We're going to alternate down-up pick on the first string. And let's hear it, Chris. Good. Yep, just simple down-up. Okay, now the second technique is a little more difficult. It's going to require a little bit more practice. It uses two strings. We're going to use the second and first string, and same kind of picking, down up, except we're going to pick down on the second string and up on the first. Okay, and as my friend Chris here will show you. Good. Okay, now our next melody, example number 8, Frere Jacques, is a good example of where alternate picking comes into play. Okay. Let's try that together, Chris. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice in the fourth and fifth measure, that's where you use the alternate picking between the D on the second string and E on the first string. Giving us. Okay. Notice how much more awkward that would be to try to do it all downstroke. It just flows a lot better once you've got the alternate picking. Okay. Let's try that one more time, nice and slow for our friends at home. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well, now would be a good time to go back and make sure you know all your notes and your simple chords, and keep practicing. We'll see you next time. All right, time for our sixth and final lesson. And today we're going to talk about full chords. If you remember back to lesson 3, we made some very simple chords on 3 strings. Well, now we're going to do some full chords which use all 6 strings. Okay, remember your simple G chord, which we covered the 3rd fret of the 1st string? Well, we're still going to cover the 3rd fret, except now we're also going to cover the 3rd fret of the 6th string with our 2nd finger, the 2nd fret of the 5th string with our 1st finger, and of course the 3rd fret of the 1st string with our 4th finger. And now we're going to strum all 6 strings. And that's our full G chord. Very good. Okay. Now remember your G7 chord. We're going to fill this out as well. Okay. We're going to continue to cover the 1st fret of the 1st string with your 1st finger. Okay. Now, on the 5th string, we're going to cover the 2nd fret with our 2nd finger, and on the 6th string, we're going to cover the 3rd fret with our 3rd finger. And what we have looks something like this. Good. And that's your full G7 chord. Now your full C chord is going to use the same fingers as your G7, except everything is moved in a little closer. Notice the 2nd and 3rd fingers each move up a string to the 5th and 4th string. 1st finger comes in to the second string. And there's our full C chord. Okay. And finally, our D7 chord. This is a brand new one. Going to take our first finger, put it on the first fret of the second string, and then second finger on the second fret of the third string, and then third finger on the second fret of the first string. Now, when playing the D7, we want to strum everything except the sixth string. So you can start your pick right here on your fifth string. Very good. Okay. Now, you might want to refer to the diagrams in your enclosed booklet. Your chord diagrams will be a handy reference for remembering how to finger your chords. Okay, ready, guys?
Sure.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Example 9 in your booklet contains a chord progression in which we'll use the full chords. Notice it's in 3/4 time, so we'll be counting 3 beats to the measure. And on this particular one, let's just strum 1 chord per measure. So every time we come to beat 1, we'll give it 1 strum. Okay, ready, guys?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, Good. Okay. Now, as you're playing these full chords for the first time, you're probably having a difficult time getting all the notes to ring out and changing the chords. That's perfectly normal. These take time to become comfortable with. So take your time and really work at these. I should remind you that you should have your fingers pointing straight down at the fretboard on these strings and not coming across like this. Otherwise, what happens is they rest on the neighboring strings and you get muted strings or strings that don't ring. So really try to have them pointing right down at the strings so you can hear every string ring out nice and clean. The last thing we're going to talk about is melodies with chords. Okay? Example 10 is Amazing Grace again, except this time notice that the chord symbols or chord letters are written above the melody on the top of each measure. So I'm going to have Nick here play the melody for Amazing Grace while I play the chords. And let's hear how these sound together. Ready, Nick?
Sure.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now, Nick and I are going to play Amazing Grace together. Nick is going to play the chords while I play the melody. And let's see how these parts work together. Ready?
Mhm.
One, two, All right. So as you see, melody and chords work great together. Melody and harmony. And it's a lot of fun to play with your friends. Some of you play the melody, some of you play the chords. And we're going to leave you now with just that. Nick and I are going to play the melody to Amazing Grace, and Jeff and Chris are going to play the chords. All set, guys? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. If you feel comfortable with all this stuff, then you're ready to step up to video number 2. Have fun.
Bye.
See ya.